Trump trial continues today. Yesterday, Stormy Daniels back on the stand getting cross-examined by the former president's attorney in the New York criminal trial. Lawyers spent part of the day trying to poke holes in testimony she made earlier this week. Let's get the breakdown on what we've seen so far. Defense attorney A. Scott Bolden once again with his take on it all. Scott's always good to see you. Let's start with Stormy Daniels. After we heard a lot of details, first of all, did she come across as credible in your opinion?
I think she did. Is there anyone in America that doubts that Donald Trump and Stormy Daniels had sex? And you got a lot of testimony about that on cross-examination. Not as much on direct, even though there was more that came in. Remember, this is a business records falsification case. But you have to put Stormy Daniels on to show not only what Donald Trump was allegedly trying to hide, but more importantly, what happened and why it was so important, so close to the election in 2016 that they had to pay her off. And so she had to be that witness. I think she came across credible. I think her honesty about wanting him to go to jail and not liking him and the fact that he attacked her first gives her credibility. Takes a lot of courage to get him to stand, tell the truth under sworn testimony, and then in front of all of these people, talk about your life as a porn star and as a striptease or strip dancer. So tough day for Donald Trump, even given the cross-examination that took place.
To the untrained legal eye, I'm just going to say it, Scott, it had the appearance that he was on trial for having sex with her. That's not what he is on trial for. Did we need all of those details that were involved in that process?
Well, probably not, but she still is the base of these allegations. The judge and I agree on one thing. We didn't need all of those salacious details. The prosecution brought them out, but the fact of the matter is the defense let a lot of that in without objecting. In fact, Judge Marchand criticized the defense for letting that in when he was entertaining a motion for mistrial. You know, it's not up to the judge to keep it out. And if the prosecution violated some agreement, they've opened the door. But if the defense doesn't object, then it comes in most times unless the judge does it on his own. Then the defense on cross-examination had to delve into it once they let it in. A lot of strategic issues here, but the sex is the salacious part, but it's the least important part to this case going on in New York right now.
Defense did make some motions after the fact to try to get this dismissed, and the judge denied those motions. Scott, you've been there, you've been in the courtroom, you've been in these situations before. From a strategy point, like you say, when you are really only, I mean, forget about all of us at home that are watching. You're just trying to convince those people in the jury box. So to this point, who's doing a better job of that?
Well, the government always does a better job on their direct case because they're building they've got building blocks and they're telling this story. The defense is just trying to poke holes in it. So the prosecution always looks strong. I do think Stormy Daniels had some credibility issues and there was a good cross-examination. But again, this isn't about sex and whether Donald Trump had sex with her. Now, he denies it. She says yes. It's really about what comes next. Cohen, his lawyer, is going to connect him to the scheme and the conspiracy and whether and how they book these expenses. The really dull witnesses, quite frankly, are the star witnesses because how they book these expenses and why they paid his lawyer Cohen back, including to cover his tax exposure. The defense is going to have to explain that, and that's coming next.
Yeah, Scott, we got to wrap it up, but real quick, you know, there's the gag order in place. The former president can't talk about the testimony. I know that's killing him right now because he wants to try to counter what Stormy Daniels said in court. But he can talk about the judge, and he did. He blasted the judge after what happened yesterday. Is there no bounds when it comes to that, or can the judge come back and say, hey, don't talk about me either?
Hey, the judge could do that, but he hasn't. He says, I've got broad shoulders. I'm a public official. He can talk about me all he wants, but he does that at his own risk. Because if Donald Trump is convicted of 1 or 34 counts of business fraud, which are felonies, right? It's Marchand who's going to sentence him. And this judge has threatened to put him in jail over gag orders. I have no doubt that if he gets convicted of 1 or 34 felony counts in this case, that Judge Marchand is going to sentence him to some level of incarceration. I wouldn't jump on or criticize the judge very much because he's got Trump's liberty literally in his hands.
Well, you're playing by A. Scott Bolden rules, though, so we just have to keep that in mind.